Hi guys, it's Jordan from P&P Campers. Just going to do your handover video on your Autocruise Valentine. The Valentine's a Marquis edition, you can see there. So under the bonnet here we have got, so just by the way, based on the 53 plate Peugeot Boxer chassis. So we've got the engine battery over here on the left hand side. A couple of fuses and relays at the back just there, nothing really to be too worried about. It's those ones there will be related to the split relay, split charger, that sort of thing, mainly for us to sort of think about if there's any problems in the future. Fiat 249 is your white colour on this particular vehicle, so that's the cab colour, and obviously it does follow on to the back end as well, so any touch-up paints or anything like that, it'll be Fiat 249. We've then got your brake fluid up here attached to the servo behind it, power steering fluid here at the front, engine oil gets topped up through this cap just here at the top of the engine, and the corresponding engine oil dipstick is this one just down here. Fuses and relays behind this box and inside here as well. That's all Peugeot related. You've then got your engine coolant reservoir up here at the top. You can see the engine's cold at the moment and sat at the perfect level for that. And your washer fluid down here in this reservoir on the bottom right. The air filter sits inside this box just here, and your fuel filter sits just behind it over in the corner. I would also say that it's nice to see that these brackets here, these whatever you want to call them, mounts, are all in good condition. They look like they've been replaced for new ones at some point, so that's always a good thing to look for. The fuel filler point is just behind this little cover here. You will need your ignition key to get that to open up, and that's diesel. Inside the passenger door there's not really much to go through, as there never really is. All of the sort of bonnet releases and things like that are all on the driver's side there. Bit of storage underneath the passenger seat there, and both of these front seats do swivel with these handles here, so you pull the handle and then the seat will swivel round. The leisure battery for this particular vehicle sits inside this near side locker and inside this little cubby just down here, so you can see positive on this right hand side, negative on the left. And I'll just pop the little cover back down there. Got a few bits in there, so your jack and wheel brace sits under there, the awning winder, and that is also a centre pole for the awning by the looks of it. These two vents just here on this near side are both to do with your fridge. So if, like me right now, you've got the fridge lit up on gas, you will feel hot air coming out through the top of this vent just here, and you can actually see the condensation building up just there as well. All that is the fact that the flame sits just down here on the bottom right hand side of this bottom vent, comes up through the flue or the exhaust and comes out just there. So just be a little bit cautious. If you've had that on for a little while, they do get hot. Your wastewater drain off point is this one just over here. You can see there attached to the waste tank. So that is how you drain out the wastewater. The step at the back of the vehicle here, so obviously it's got a rear door instead of a side door. The step is electronic, working from this little switch just here. I'll just show you, working really nicely. There you go. Strange kind of thing on this particular van, because it's got the rear door here. The only logical place to put the awning is here on the back. So it is quite a small awning, but that's just because it's on the back of the vehicle, so you can only have it across the width rather than the length of the vehicle. So that is why that's just there, so that it covers up the back door here. But yeah, should still work really nicely. You have got these little bits just here as well, so that because the awning's quite high up, I can't imagine that the legs will reach the floor very well. So if you wanted to put the feet of the leg in here, and there should be one on the other side, in there, then it means that you can have the legs in there and still have the door able to open. So that'll work really well actually. Right, onto the offside, we've got the first cupboard that we get to on the back here is your toilet cassette locker. So the toilet cassette itself is very, very simple. You've got a freshwater flush, which is what this blue pipe is just here, which means you haven't got any separate flush fluids to worry about above it. So all you have to think about with this particular one is emptying it and filling it up with a little bit of the blue fluid once you've emptied it. To make sure that you've got a little bit of fresh water in the tank so that you can flush the toilet. Other than that, it is very, very simple. So to empty it out, well, first off, to actually get it to come out, you've got a little yellow tab just down here. Pull that up and then you'll be able to pull the entire thing completely out. Once you've got it out, this is your draining point, or your emptying point. That is also it's got measurements on it, so you can see how much of the blue fluid you're putting back in, so you can use this as a sort of like a measuring cup. So that's where you actually empty it out from. When you're emptying it out, you should hold down the little yellow button just there. And the only other thing I will say is something that I always say: any rubber on this entire motorhome will perish over time if you don't lubricate it with silicone lubricant. Especially this little rubber seal just here. Look at that. So this rubber seal here is the seal that stops anything going from inside the toilet bowl in the van and not going into the cassette. So if this isn't lubricated and this little flap here isn't moving freely, what it means is that whatever you put into the actual toilet bowl itself in there, if that rubber perishes, what might happen is the fluid will come outside of that flap there and into the cupboard rather than into the cassette. So silicone lubricant is really helpful for spraying up that stuff, as well as any rubber like around these lockers here to stop any water getting into here and making the wood rotten. We've then got this vent just here, which is to do with your boiler. So this is the actual vent for the boiler itself. So if you have that lit up, again, same with the fridge, the top left or right hand side of this vent here will get hot, so just be careful on that. You've also got the winter cover for that as well, which I'll just leave down there for the minute just because I'll show you it lights up. You've then got your hookup point just here. So if you do have access to a hookup cable, it's really, really helpful. Mainly due to the fact that when you plug in on the mains, your leisure battery will be getting a really good charge up, which means that you don't have to worry about any 12-volt power draw or anything like that. It also means that you'll be able to use various things in the vehicle via the 240-volt electric. I know that the fridge works on the mains in here as well as gas, and a few other bits that I'll run you through when we get inside. Right, so the fresh water on this particular vehicle, Autocruise made a bit of a thing of doing this on a lot of their vehicles. So instead of just having a hose point to just put into the vehicle to fill up the tank, you've got this funny kind of filling point just here, which works on 12-volt power. So there is a socket for it inside. I have seen it already, but on the control panel you've got internal and external pump. Now 9 times out of 10, in order to actually get the water to draw up from the pump thing that I'll mention when we get inside into the vehicle, you do have to switch it over to external, which I'll show you on the control panel. But that's the only thing you should have to do. Once you've plugged that little pump thing into there, you just drop it into a bucket or a rollaway of water, and that will draw the water into the vehicle. Then got the gas locker down here. Might look a little bit worse for wear, but to be completely honest, they do suffer a little bit because they're literally drop out here to the floor. So they are going to get water inside of them. Not really much you can do about that, to be fair, but if it gets a lot worse than this, then you might have to think about maybe relining it, but I don't think that for now there's absolutely nothing wrong with that in my opinion. So the gas locker itself is very simple. You've just got a 6 kilo propane bottle here. Sorry about the noise, just something going past. So to turn these bottles on, you go anti-clockwise around to the left, and to turn it off, you go clockwise around to the right. Now you need to make sure that you turn these bottles off before you start driving every time. The last thing you want in the event of a crash is 30 millibars of gas pumping through, because that's a lot. But yeah, so that's your gas locker, and I will now just show you in the cab. So in the actual cab, again, relatively straightforward. There's not a huge amount to run through, but you've got the 5-speed manual gearbox on this one. Reverse is lift up on the back just here, over and up to the top left hand side. You've then got your lights and indicators from the left hand stalk, washers and wipers from the right. You've got the electric adjusting mirrors from this little thing here. So you basically just choose which mirror you want to move by selecting it, and then move this around like a little joystick in order to get the mirror to move wherever you want it to. You've got your hazard warning lights from the middle just here, and all of your heater controls underneath that. The standard fitted Peugeot head unit just there, so that should work really nicely. Not being replaced for a cheap modern one, which is good. The only other thing I will mention, as well as the bonnet release handle, is just down here. Steering column adjustment is just there. But the only other thing I'll mention is that you've got this cover just here. So the 2 screws that you see there, once you've taken those out, it gives you access to the main fuse box inside there, which is all again to do with the Peugeot system. And because it's the modern cab here, you have also got access in here to your OBD reader, which is your code reader basically. So that is where that is. Okay, so imagining that you've come in through the front just here, just going to go through the control panel first. So PMS, Power Management Systems, Plug-in Systems is the company that make these, but yeah, it's your power supply unit is what it is. It doubles up. These systems are really good because they kind of double up as the charger, the trip switches, the fuses, the power supply unit, and the control panel all in one. So I've always loved these systems. You do miss out on this whole cupboard here because of that, but if you do want to get in there, you just undo this screw and it should still just hinge up. So really clever little systems here. And I think, to be honest, saves on a lot of space. Even though you use up that whole cupboard for it, I actually think it saves space, because really, you know, if you had a separate fuse box and a separate trip switches and a separate control panel and a separate everything, then really that's going to take up more space. So right, so first things first, you've got in the middle just here, it says battery select. Okay, so at the moment I'm down on van, and the reason I'm on van is because van is the leisure battery. If I went up to car, what will happen is anything that I tell the van to do, like put the lights on and all that sort of thing, all the power for that will be being drawn from the engine battery, which we do not want. As soon as we do that, you know, after a half an hour or so, the engine battery is going to be flat and you're not going to be able to start the van up. So all the time that you're using 12-volt power, you want to be down on van. Next door to it to the right, you've got pump, and if you want the pump to be on and you want to draw the water through to the inside of the vehicle, you press down to internal. The external one, as I was saying outside, is for if you want to draw the water through and into the vehicle from your filling point outside. So this is the bit that I was saying about. I'll just show you a second. I'm just going to get it all with one hand. Right, so this is the bit that I was saying about. So essentially all you do is plug this in to that point outside, which I just showed you, and then the other side drops down into a tank. Okay, so you'll need like a roll away fresh tank or something in order to actually drop this into. But if you want to fill up the fresh water tank on board, you do so from there, and you have to select external on the pump switch, and that will then send power to that socket outside, which you've got this plugged into to fill up the fresh tank. Okay, so that's why you've got an internal and an external pump. All the time that you're down on internal, the pump inside the vehicle, where it actually draws the water from the tank to the taps, will then have power and you'll be able to draw water through. Okay. So the rest of the control panel is relatively straightforward. You've got 6 fuses over here, which are like the glass fuses. All you need to do to take those out is just unscrew here a couple of times with a flathead screwdriver, and it'll just pop out on a spring. You've then got down here your test switch, which is, so you've got battery up to the top and water at the bottom. So whatever battery you've selected up here, so we're on van, leisure battery, it will show you the battery voltage when you press up. So if we watch there, right up in the green for the leisure battery, which is absolutely perfect. And if you want to check the fresh water level, we'll press down and we're pretty much empty on the fresh water. All right, so that's how you use that. Charger supply. So you can leave this in the on position if you want to, because all that does is it tells the charger when the hookup's plugged in to start working. All right, so this won't do anything at all until you plug the hookup cable in, because it's a 240 volt charger. So if you're in the on position there, you plug the hookup cable in, the battery charger there will immediately start charging up the leisure battery down there in that cupboard, which is exactly what you want really, because it then means that any 12 volt power that you draw from the lights, from the ignitions, from the fan, you don't have to think twice about it, because it's not going to, you know, depreciate the battery voltage if it's constantly being charged up. The last bit on the control panel here is your trip switches. So that's again mains power. It has got a little symbol, a little diagram here telling you what all 3 of these MCBs do. So sockets, water heater, charger and fridge. Okay, so that is how you essentially, you know, that's just where, if it is going to trip, that's where it'll do it basically. Right. Just going to have a look down the back of that cupboard. Hang on a second, I probably should have done this before the video, but now that I've seen that switch there, makes me wonder. Sorry, I'm just chatting away to myself here. Right, okay, good. So what I was checking for on this on the trip switches here, because it says 240 volt water heater, I was under the impression when I came in here that this was that the boiler was gas only, but actually in the wardrobe here you can use the boiler on the mains as well. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so that's the control panel, and you know, for the minute all we want to do is have the power on, so we're down on van and we're down on internal, so that we can get the water pumping around to the taps. Once we've done that, if we want to get some hot water and we want to turn the boiler on, there is just one quick thing that you have to do first. In order to know that the boiler is full of water, you have to come to the tap here. Once you put the pump switch on internal, come to the tap, pull the water through on the cold side, got good pressure, turn it around to the hot side, also got good pressure, turn it off. That's it. All right, that's all I want you to do. The reason that we do that is that doing that just doing what I've just done there, and the water coming through nice and clearly and not coughing and spluttering, proves to me that the boiler is actually full of water. Now, because the hot water system has to run through the boiler in order to get to this tap, if no water comes out of that tap on the hot side, it means that the boiler is not full. If the water does come out on the hot side, it means the boiler is full. Once you've done that, and you've proven to yourself that the boiler is full of water, you can go ahead and use it as you want. Right, so if like me, we haven't got the hookup plugged in and we have got the gas on, we can still use the boiler. So this is how you use the boiler on the gas. So if I just turn this switch around to the right just once, the boiler will light up and it will get to whatever temperature you set it to, which is 70 all the way down to 30. Okay, so that's how that works. You literally just turn the dial once, it'll light up, and that's it. You can just forget about it. It'll just work as it needs to. So literally just like this, just like that, and that's it. You just leave it alone, and it will just stay lit. And you know, after about half an hour or so, you'll have hot water coming through that tap over there. So that is literally it. As long as that stays green like it is now, you're good to go. if you do have the hookup plugged in and you want to heat the water up via your mains power, you have also got that switch just in there. So literally just turn that on there, it will light up orange at the bottom, and that's it. So it will literally, again, after about maybe an hour on the mains there, you'll have hot water. Okay, so that's the hot water system. We've then got down here your space heater. So this is a Trumatic space heater, or an ultra heat, sometimes they're called. Okay, so I'll just explain how this works. I'm just going to turn this off for now. It's quite a cold day, so I just had it on when I came in. Right. So the way that these work is very, very simple, but I will just run you through it. So you've got these circular vents around the vehicles. You've got two here. There'll probably be one in the bathroom. Now, on the right-hand side of this heater, you've got this little section over here. So you've got this little button here, which I've pushed to the left, which actually turns it on, and then 1 through to 5, which is basically how fast you want that fan to run. The fan is the bit that you can just about see at the back there, and it just pumps around air to these circular vents. So that's having the fan option there is really helpful, because it means that not all of the heat comes pumping straight through the front of this. It gets quite evenly distributed around through the vents. But to actually light the heater up, so this is a gas only heater, it doesn't work on the mains as well, but to light this up, all you have to do is literally turn this dial round to about 2 or 3. You probably can't hear it, but there is currently an igniter. Oh, you can just about see it there, look. So if you watch that igniter, all I'm going to do now is push down on this little dial here. All right, so if we watch what happens. So the pilot flame kicks straight in. And now all I'm going to do is lift up on this little dial here, and turn it around to about 8 or 9. So now the main flame is kicked in, and that will just stay on now until you turn it off. And that is it. That is literally all you have to do. So as long as you can see the gas flame in there, you're good to go. The only other thing I will mention is that the boiler, the heater flue, in fact, actually it's covered up in here, ignore me, just forget that. But yeah, so just keep your eye on that, make sure it stays on. If it doesn't stay on, it will start clicking at you again. So all you have to do in that situation, if it does go out, is just push back down again and start the process again. Push down and wait for the pilot, turn it around, lift it up. And that is it. So now to turn it off, go all the way back round to 0, and you'll see there, no more flame in there. The little orange bit that went out just then is just the little thermocouple sitting in the flame going out. In my opinion as well, I always like to leave the fan running for a little bit once I've had this on, just because if you turn this off and then turn the fan off at the same time straight away, it gives you the biggest rush of heat you would ever have felt. And the only issue with that is it's not a bad thing all the time, but the only problem is these I'm surprised that these are in such good condition. But normally, if you've got these cupboards above these heaters, the tops and the bottoms of these, the Fablon, the vinyl wrap around it, will tend to warp and kind of the glue melts, I think, and it starts to kind of come away. So if I was you, I would leave this fan on for a little bit to cool the system down before you end up actually, warping this stuff. But maybe 5 minutes or so, and then just switch it off by pushing it into the middle, just like that. Well, that's it. Okay, so boiler, turn that off now. The heater down there. So the fridge is probably the next part. So this is a Electrolux 3-way fridge, Dometic there. So it works on gas, on 12 volt, and on mains electric. So at the moment, I've got the fridge lit up on gas, which you can probably tell by the little flame that you can see there in the hole. Okay, so that is your gas sort of peephole, if you like. Now, I'm going to turn this off by going all the way up to the off button just there, if you like, off switch. And so now inside there, no more flame. So if you have the hookup plugged in, you can select the first one just there, and that will just start cooling down via the electric element. If you've already pre-cooled the fridge and you're driving, you should have it here on 12 volt. And if you want to use it on the gas, you have to go all the way down to the bottom. And again, like I said, no flame at the moment because we have to do something first. All you have to do then is push in on this one just here whilst pressing the piezo igniter. Okay, so if I just do that, in, press it a few times, and the flame's back on. Now that the flame's on, all I'm going to do is just hold on to this for a few seconds just to allow it to warm up. And now I'm letting go of it. So I'm completely off of that now. Flame is still on, and that's it. That's all you have to do. So that will now start cooling down, and after a couple of hours, this fridge will be nice and cold. So the gas and the 240 volt are the only two ways that this fridge will get cold. And as I said, you have to pre-cool it before you leave and switch over to 12 volt here because the 12 volt just isn't powerful enough to cool it down by itself. All it really does is it holds the temperature that you've already put inside the fridge. And that's the fridge. So you've got the range cooker just here, which is probably spin flow if I'm not mistaken. Where's the... yeah, oh no, sorry. Country Leisure. They're all very similar companies, but so Caprice is the model of that one. So 4-burner hob at the top, so you literally just push in around to the left with the igniter switch just there, and that will light up whichever one you select. You've got the exact same lighting situation with the grill and the oven. You just have to make sure that you select the correct one, obviously. But I never really go into much depth on these because it's literally just like a household cooker, and I feel like I'm kind of, you know, telling you things you don't need to know. The only thing I will say, and it does say just there, glass may shatter when heated, but I will just reiterate that because it's so important. Please don't, I mean, obviously don't close the lid down if the flame's actually on. That's probably a given. But also, if you've just been using one of these for a little while and it's really, really red hot, if you turn it off and put that glass straight down, I can pretty much guarantee you that it will shatter. So you do need to allow these to cool down a little bit. I mean, if you have it on for a couple of seconds like I just did, it really doesn't matter. But when it's really hot underneath and cold on top, that's just when they shatter. So that is that. Also down here, you've got your gas isolator taps. Now somebody has kindly written down here which tap does what, but I will just run you through it as well because you can tell by the symbols. So the top one is this cooker here. The next one down is the fridge. Next one down is the boiler, and the one at the bottom is the heater. So if you wanted to isolate the gas from any of those appliances, you can do so from there. So I think the last thing to show you is the bathroom. Now, for such a small van, I think these, you know, the bathroom here is actually really, really well done. Where the switch is for the light, there it is. Okay, so I don't tend to run through the sinks and the showers because they are literally just hot and cold, exactly the same as everywhere else. But you know, it's very, very straightforward. The only bit that I tend to run through is the toilets because not everybody has used one of these Thetford toilets before. Now, Thetford are the company that make pretty much all the toilets in all the vans nowadays. Always have been, really. But very, very simple. You've literally got a blue button, which when you press it, the water pumps around from the fresh tank. And then when you want to flush the toilet, you pull this thing towards you. That then opens that flap, and then you can push it back to close the flap back over. And that really is all all there is to it. So yeah, there you go. So I'll just turn the light off. Okay, so I think I've shown everything. Yeah, so fridge, cooker, heater, boiler, control panel. yeah, so if there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you'd like going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.